is coming, because they have all these programs that they would list that they're having all around the place, and those are the things I would take them to. And then like when I got
the Rockettes show at the Christmas time,
yeah,
I know Dave still talks about that. Yeah,
and like the circus I took them to, and a lot of things. We really went to plays in down in Manhattan at Lincoln Center and all those places. I would take them.
Now you take us to golf, but then our neighbors would sponge off you.
Here's Dave baiting his mother.
Yeah.
Hey, can you hold this for a while so I can have a piece of pie?
No.
Please.
Well, I'll hold a little bit longer. I'm going to have my Metamucil.
No, we can rest. We can rest until you come back.
No, because I'll miss something.
No, I said we don't have to tape. Keep taping. Can't you turn it off and then we tape?
Well, I can, but are you going to talk about something really interesting? Because this is great stuff. So, all right, I will take a break. Friends in Jamaica, right?
We just enjoyed each other's company. We used to go places together before they left for Canada. We used to, like on a Saturday evening, we would go to some place. You see, in those days, girls don't go to bars or go in places like that. Even if you went to a club, you don't go and sit at the bar. It was not ladylike to do all those things.
So you would go sit at the table, I guess.
We'd be at tables.
Would people send drinks over then, or what would
No,
they?
but we could order. You can order things, whatever you want.
But I mean, if a guy wanted to pick you up or something, or like...
Well, they usually do it on the dance floor. They would maybe come over and ask you to dance, you know. Like if you feel inclined to dance with the person, you go. But that's it. And we used to really go places together because, you see, the company we worked with had a lot of foreign contact. And when people come out, especially the main owner, manager, or CEO, you would call him in this country's language, and he would be the CEO. He was also an ophthalmologist. And he had that business there, and then this this company was founded by him. It was named after him, Solomon.
So what did you guys do, like secretarial stuff there?
We did, yes, the secretarial and bookkeeping, but it was really like a factory. We put together, a lot of the things were imported and they were bottled at the company and put out under the name of the company. And then they used to do certain local things, like perfume. We used to make couscous perfume. And we used to have all these tourists coming in, and we had a contract with the hotels. They would send the tourists there for us to give them tours, to tell them the process that we suppose that we used to make the perfume.
And then, of course, they would have to buy some, right?
So, you know, things like that, and I used to enjoy that. So, yeah. But we used to do so much together. We would go sometimes. There was a hotel in Kingston called the Myrtle Bank Hotel, which was a very important, popular hotel at the time. On the Friday, we would go there and we'd sit by the pool and, you know, order a drink between them, you know. We have a little light drink and so on. And there were not much in Jamaica. We used to go to nightclubs, together we made up parties to go. We invite the fellows we knew and we would go to parties, and we have a good time at these parties. And then when the foreign contacts came down, we would make up office groups to go out. I have pictures at home of some of the things we did. Sometimes it wasn't necessarily a club. It would be we had a place called Hope Gardens, which was like a botanical garden, a big botanical garden, and they used to have concerts there and all that. And we would take some of the visitors to those places. Those are some of the things I have pictures of. And
so how old were you now in this one?
In our 20s there. And we really had a fun together, the three of us. We used to do everything together. Then, of course, when they left for Canada now, and they got married, they came out. Well, Merle had come back. Merle was the one who came back first with her husband, Cliff, because she brought him back to Jamaica to live. And he used to work at the Radio Jamaica station. And then Grace got married and came out with her husband. And we all have a picture at home which shows when we all took her out to this club that was at the time the popular club, one of the popular clubs. We had two. And from there on, you know, it really wasn't much after Merle stayed in Jamaica, and then she had Shelley, who was my goddaughter, and Grace's goddaughter. And she's now married, and have grown kids. She had 2, Rebecca and Alicia.
But Merle, she didn't stay in Jamaica though, right? She came to the United States, or
no,
is she in Canada now?
She got married in Canada, but then she came back to Jamaica. And she spent a little while in Canada, and then she met her husband, got married. But right after she got married, she came back to Jamaica with him. And he got this job at Radio Jamaica, and then she had Shelley, and we spent a lot of time together because we used to, we spent so much time at each other's house, especially because Merle lived with her sister at the time when she came back, who was Gloria's husband was like what you would call, not the mayor, but he was like town clerk, they called him, which was a political post, and he managed like the corporate, Kingston and St. Andrew Corporation, which was like, I don't know how to describe that. That would handle maybe like, I'm not even sure how to describe it, but there's a government post that he had. So we spent, and she lived there, and we used to spend a lot of time at the house. And when Grace came out just for her honeymoon, and she went back to Canada to live, but Merle stayed in Jamaica. So
I mean, is she still there now?
No. Well, Shelley got married. Her daughter got married in Jamaica, and went. Her husband was she was an agronomist. He went to Canada to live, and Shelley went there. So after a while, Merle went back to Canada. So that's where she is now.
Okay.
And Shelley had, of course, the 2 daughters, and she spent some years in Jamaica with them too. And then she moved to Canada, and that's where they all are now. She came down to spend a weekend with me. Not a whole weekend. She always really spent a Sunday, Merle.
When was this?
Last summer sometime.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think it was last year. Yeah, since Daddy's in the hospital. Last year was 2000, yes, just last year. She came down and spent the Sunday with me. Alicia brought her down. And, well, Alicia was coming to New York to visit her boyfriend anyhow, so Merle came with her. And it was so good to have her, because we hadn't seen each other for years, you know. Her hair was white, completely white. And,
well, now, would yours be more, I mean, do you put color in yours?
Mine is like a tattletale gray. You know, it's not as white. Maybe Merle tinted hers a little, I don't know, but it was really white. I was surprised to see how white it was. I don't know what Grace is like, because one of the pictures she sent me is an older picture, because but Grace always had very long hair. And I think she may be mixed with a little gray too. I don't know if she's keeping it short now that she's alone so that she can handle it. But she always used to keep a long braid in the back of her. So I don't know what she's doing. But one of the pictures she sent, which was one of her later pictures, she had the hair trailing down the side of her side here. And but I think that was still taking a little while back.
Well, when did your parents think of you coming to the United States? Or were they alive then? Or
no. My father was alive, but but he was already. I mean, my mother and my father were separated, and then after she died, he got married to another woman, but she left him too. So he really lived alone, as it were, and. My mother was already dead when I came to. Because my mother died at the age of 52, you know. She died very young.
What'd she die of?
Malignant malaria. That's why I say this West Nile thing that they're talking about, I think it could be the same thing that we had in the islands years ago that we term malaria. And in Barbados they have a dengue fever, something like that is named, that cripple people. Cripple people, because she was telling me about a person who went to Barbados and got bitten by these mosquitoes and has never been the same. And when we were going to Stephanie's wedding, there was a man on the plane who was going home for some celebration they were having in Barbados, and this lady who sat beside me on the plane going home was related to him, and she started to tell me about him, and she was saying, you see that man in that wheelchair, he was one of the biggest men, stocky and well built and all that, and he went home to Barbados, was bitten by the mosquitoes, and he has lost weight, and he is crippled. He can hardly walk. So I think it's, but the malaria never did that to people. It would make you very sick. And it really, as it did in my case, my mother's case killed her, and a few others just around the time my mother died, died of the same thing.
So like, you know, I mean, did you have mosquito repellent, or was it just, you know, you were just hoping you wouldn't get bit?
It's the same water thing. It was encouraged, and we had, it was not, we had ponds in our place, like 2 ponds. But there was also a drainage that came through the Roper's property, through their property, that we never used the water from the pond for anything, maybe for just washing or cooking hog food or something like that. We never used that water for
hog
anything.
Food?
Yeah, food for the pigs. You know?
You had to cook it down, like make it soft? Or?
Yeah, when we, you know, the raw, you would cut up raw things and cook it for the pigs. And that's the only thing we used that water for, because there was a drainage that came through his property that led into that pond. You know, like when we have heavy rains and all that. So it was a lot of water around us, and they say that was what encouraged the malaria mosquitoes. Barry had it when he was a youngster.
He had malaria?
Yeah. That's why I say it doesn't really kill you, but it makes you sick, because you would get like ague, what we call ague, when the fever takes you, and especially at a certain time in the evening, you would start to shake like a leaf and all that. And it would leave you weak and so on, and sometimes you had to take certain medicines for it.
Did they have quinine then?
Quinine. And we even thought that contributed to our mother's early death, because we felt that she was being given injections of quinine, and she was given some orally too, that she was drinking. And it does affect your heart, they claim. And we figured that the doctor had just overdone his bit, and that...
By accident or on purpose? Or?
Maybe not on purpose, no. Maybe he really did not know better. But in those days, you didn't sue doctors. You never even thought of suing a doctor, you know, really. So, but after we learned about this whole thing, we figured that could have been what happened to her, because it was too strong for her heart, and our heart weakened and gave way.
So, I mean, I guess maybe I know this and I'm just not remembering it. So you were raised by a single mother, or like?
Well, more or less, yes. But my father was with us for a while. He was stayed for us for a while, but then he just wasn't really a nice person, I'm sorry to say, but he was...
What was his name?
Donald. Donald Harrod Nash, and he lived in my grandmother's home for one. This was my grandmother's home where he lived.
What, your mother's mother or your...
My mother's mother. And then when he went home, he lived with his mother's home. And then after a while, they left him in the smaller home, because the sister who lived in America built a bigger home for the mother, her mother, my grandmother, and her sister. And so they gave him the little home. But then I don't even know what happened to that home, because when I went to visit him on my trip home, he was in another house, another bigger house that, you know, that he lived alone, because he had a woman taking care of him by this time. His wife had left him already, and he had a nurse, and their agreement was that the nurse would live there and take care of him, because he was having problems with his health and all that kind of thing. And he was not a well man from before, because he had had a terrible accident. He had a trucking business at one time. He used to be in the police force, and he left. So
this is your father, right?
He left that and started a trucking business on his own, where he would do haulage from the city to the country parts.
For like businesses?
Yeah.
Like...
But he could drive, but he never liked driving. He was a nervous driver, so he had a man who used to drive the truck for him. And one night they were coming through with a load of, I think it was gasoline from what I heard. And right now, Barry would maybe remember more. I either think the guy he had driving was tired and he took over the wheel, or the chauffeur fell asleep at the wheel, but the truck turned over.